Welcome to the Keto Edge Summit, where we're dispelling the myths, empowering you, overcoming hurdles, and helping you get your brain and your body by utilizing the ketogenic lifestyle and improving your overall health. Join with me today is Dr. David Jockers, who started the Keto Edge Summit. I'm Dr. Gezzagoli. I'll be interviewing him. David, I want to welcome you to the Keto Edge Summit. This is something that it was your vision, your passion. We came together as a team. We supported each other. And this is a little bit different because today I'm going to be interviewing you. By the way, you've done an amazing job interviewing all of these great speakers. What a powerhouse. You know, if you're listening to us for the first time and you're getting excited about this, you know, this is just an amazing opportunity for you to learn, to galvanize into action, and to really take the information and take it to the next level. So we want to welcome you guys for joining us. So Dr. David, I want to just get right into, tell us your story, personally, how you got into natural health. I know that you've got a great story, and I want you to share it with our listeners.
Yeah, number one, guys, I'm super excited to now be being interviewed after doing all these other interviews. But, you know, my story is really growing up, my mom was a naturopath. I was into health. I was living a healthier lifestyle than most people I knew. And all of a sudden, I was a personal trainer, and I developed irritable bowel syndrome, to where I was eating all this food, I mean, 5,000, 6,000 calories that I thought I had to eat in order to maintain my muscle mass. And all of a sudden, the muscle mass started going away, right? I started losing weight quickly. In about a 4-month period of time, I dropped 30 pounds, and I went from being about 170 pounds down to roughly at 135 at my lowest weight. And I would have orthostatic hypotension, where I go from sitting to standing, and I would have to hold on to something. And so I realized, my goodness, there's a lot wrong with what's going on in my health. And a chiropractor actually helped me by correcting my spine, working on my spine, started shifting my nutrition. I read a book called The Maker's Diet that my chiropractor had turned me on to, written by a friend of ours, Jordan Rubin. And I read that book, started applying those principles, and was able to regain my health, okay? And so then I went into graduate school, super excited. I wanted to own my own health clinic and really just have a huge focus on community wellness and change as many lives as I could. And so I opened my clinic, Exodus Health Center, in right outside of Atlanta in 2009, right after I graduated from graduate school. And I actually lived in my clinic, and I was working 80-hour weeks. I mean, you know how it is when you're a young entrepreneur. I was single. All I did was work 7 days a week, pretty much from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed. And I had a lot of success from the world's standards. I had a successful clinic. But when you're imbalanced like that, it's going to affect your health. And for me, I ended up developing skin cancer, a big nodule on the side of my nose. And I was looking at it in the mirror every single day, and really cancer. And I know you lost your father to cancer. I lost my grandfather. He was really the first person that I ever saw actually suffer and die from a chronic disease that was close to me in my life. And he died from metastatic skin cancer. So it was a skin cancer that killed him. I grew up in Florida, on the beach, surfing and being in the sun a lot. And so I've been sunburned more than somebody should be in the course of their life. So I had all these risk factors. And I just looked, I was looking at myself in the mirror. I was seeing this nodule. I thought it was acne. I was hoping it was just acne. It would go away on its own. And I realized as it continued to get worse that it wasn't, that it was something a lot more serious. And I just took inventory of my life, and I realized that I was out of balance. I was overworking. I wasn't taking good care of my health. And, started making really a lot of shifts and changes in my mental outlook, my spiritual life, removing toxins. And one of the key things that I found was this ketogenic lifestyle. And I realized that when I healed my irritable bowel, I had gone really low carb for a period of time there. And I was able to, so I took out the carbohydrates. I started implementing things like intermittent fasting, and that really helped me heal my gut. And so I said, you know what? I'm gonna really, really lock in and go back to that. And that's what I did. And really in a matter of about 4 months, I was able to, that nodule withered away, right? And I was able to basically just be healthy and strong. My energy went through the roof, my brain function. And, it was a sign for me from God that our body can heal itself. And I had seen that now twice with 2 debilitating conditions really being healed naturally through this ketogenic lifestyle.
Well, I think it's a powerful story, David. I love what you said about balance. And what's interesting is that Most Americans don't have balance, and it's something in medicine we call homeostasis, where everything's in balance internally, regardless of external factors. The body can do that. But obviously you weren't in balance at that time with your blood pressure, orthostatic blood pressure going up and down, and probably a weakened adrenals. And what I love about your story is you've lived it, and now you can transform what happened to you to others. And so it's powerful. And in my 25+ year career, I found that some of the best physicians, patient heal thyself, is a doctor who actually experienced it and relate to you. Not necessarily you have to get sick to be a good doctor, but my point is, your belief system transforms in the way you communicate. And so what a great story, David. And I'm so glad that you got sick like that, but that was a wake-up call for you. And that was a wake-up call, and that started you on your journey. So tell me, when did you first learn about the ketogenic diet and the benefits to offers to others, and really the science behind it?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, it really started when I had my irritable bowel issue. I realized that when I stayed away from food, when I just focused on hydration, basically when I fasted. Nobody was talking about fasting back then. This was 2004, 2005. I didn't read anything about fasting. I just started realizing that when I stopped eating, when I would drink a ton of water, and I would eat my meals between like 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night, that I felt amazing, and I started to heal faster. When I ate breakfast in the morning, I felt crummy all day long. My digestion was off. I just felt inflamed all day long. And so for me, it was self-experimentation at first. And then really the research started coming. The research was out there, but it started coming into more of the mainstream, or it started becoming more available for researchers like myself, really around 2011, 2012. And that was right after I had kind of overcome my own health condition with the skin cancer, that I started actually finding real literature out there on this, and realized, wow, there's a term for this kind of low-carb fasting lifestyle that I've been applying, and it's called the ketogenic lifestyle. And so I started really diving into that in more detail and writing articles, created my website, drjockers.com, which is really one of the most trafficked websites with information pertaining to the ketogenic lifestyle. And I've just been really immersed in studying this in more detail since then, and working with patients all around the world, helping them adopt this ketogenic lifestyle.
Well, I mean, that's powerful how you've done the research, because there's a lot of research out there. And for those of you that are joining us for the Keto Edge Summit, there's so much research, and this is one of the reasons why Dr. Jockers and myself want to put this out there, is to bring the science, because there's science involved. So I want to get into the term you just said right now, ketogenic lifestyle. What other components are there besides just a diet?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you look at a ketogenic lifestyle, number one, we talk about ketones, and everybody thinks about the ketogenic diet. And the diet is important, right? Because we've got to make sure we've got really the right nutrients, the right fatty acids in there, to some degree, the right macronutrients, right? So we're eating a lot of high fat, moderate protein, not a high protein diet, moderate protein, low carb diet. That's extremely important. But really, when we adopt the whole lifestyle, the lifestyle incorporates things like intermittent fasting. And when we have elevated ketones in our bloodstream, and we're using those for energy, we're gonna have more satiety and less hunger and cravings. And that's really one of the great benefits of this, is that our desire to eat all the time, every several hours, goes down significantly. So you're able to go long periods of time without food, and that's just that's a natural part of the ketogenic lifestyle. And whenever we eat, eating itself produces inflammation, right? Eating is an inflammatory thing. We have to eat, obviously, to live, but it produces inflammation. So by withdrawing from food, by doing things like intermittent fasting, okay, and taking time between meals, we actually downregulate inflammatory pathways in our body, which is super key. So incorporating the fasting, also hydration, and getting the right amount of electrolytes. In our brain, in our hypothalamus, which is like the antenna of our brain, our hunger center and our thirst center are right next to each other. When we eat food, food has a dopamine effect, a dopamine stimulating effect, kind of like cocaine does, okay? Meaning that naturally we feel high, we feel great when we're eating food. This is a natural, advantage to us. It kind of makes us have this drive and this desire to eat, which keeps the human species alive. So we get a high, a natural high when we consume food. We don't get quite that same high when we drink water. So for today's day and age, We have pantries. We could literally get this dopamine high by eating all day long, just continually stimulate this pathway all day long, and we forget about drinking. And so what happens is the brain has this principle where, if you don't use it, you lose it. And so there's this component of neuroplasticity where the brain cells will start to change and shift. And so that hunger center starts to grow into the thirst center. So when your body really wants water and electrolytes, salts, you experience it as, I'm hungry. I want that Danish over there. I want that, soda or whatever it is, that fruit drink that's right there, because I need that because my brain is telling me that. And so with a ketogenic lifestyle tells us, hey, let's really focus on hydration, which is super key, because I always tell my clients, we don't eat for energy. You drink and take in electrolytes like salts for energy. Water and electrolytes is what conducts electrical current throughout our body. That's what really allows us to feel great energy. When we have a lot of energy, it's really good neural conductivity that's taking place in our body, whereas we eat for adaptation and recovery. So it's important to understand that. We want to eat to adapt and recover from the stress of the day so we can rebuild new healthy cells, but not to stimulate energy. So when we're drinking, getting the electrolytes in, that's when we're gonna notice we have better energy. And so, just hydrating really well, exercising, moving our body. We're made to move. We want to have really high level, high energy thought patterns. If we're stuck in stress and fight or flight and we're not grateful for our life, that's gonna throw off our blood sugar. If we're thinking in a low-level way, if we're bitter, if we have unforgiveness in our hearts, those things stimulate fight or flight. And so whether you know it or not, your body thinks you're in a survival mechanism. When you're in a survival mechanism, it's going to elevate your blood glucose, it's going to cause more inflammation in your body, throw off your adrenals. So a lot of it has to do with the way that we think. Okay, so thinking right, being in a state of gratitude and really expressing love and generosity is super critical to the ketogenic lifestyle. So we want to kind of incorporate that mind, body, spirit approach to taking care of our body, because you and I both agree, hey, our body is really the temple to the spirit that God put within. And so the ketogenic lifestyle and the way that we use that term really embodies this mind, body, spirit approach.
That's such a great comment, Dr. David, because, I love the fact that you mentioned the hypothalamus, which is basically the part of the central nervous system. It creates a feedback mechanism.
Yeah.
The best example I give that is it's like having your temperature and your thermostat, and if you want it to be a certain temperature, and if it's not, it kicks in. That's what the hypothalamus does.
Yeah.
It sends these messages in the body, which is great because it does control our hunger and our thirst. And you mentioned satiety, which is so important in our society of gluttony right now. The question is, are we living to eat? Or are we eating to live? And it's really important to understand the difference there. There's individuals out there that just live to eat.
Yeah.
And that's where your approach...
That's like a drug addict.
It's totally
really
a drug addict.
Constantly stimulating that dopamine.
And the fact that you talked about that neurotransmitter, which is a huge problem, dopamine, in our society. And this is how a lot of these drug addictions happen right now. So you're right about the food. Let's talk about some of the top research. Give me like the 7 top research on the benefits that you've seen scientifically in a ketogenic lifestyle.
Absolutely. I love this. I love taking time to just look at research. And when you look at the ketogenic diet, number one thing is fat burning, okay? So when we look at fat burning, really this is the definition of what a ketogenic diet does, because you can produce ketones when your blood sugar goes down and your insulin is basically this hormone that comes out, takes sugar out of the bloodstream, puts it into the cells, tells the cell to use sugar as energy, okay, and to store fat. When insulin goes down, because we're on this low carbohydrate, high fat, moderate protein diet, now what happens is your liver starts to take fatty acids. And that could be fat from food we eat, like avocado or coconut oil, or it could be body fat, right? So it takes your own body fat and brings it to the liver, right? Metabolizes it, brings these triglycerides to the liver. The liver converts them from a fat-soluble compound into a water-soluble compound that crosses the cell membrane, gets into the mitochondria, and your body uses it for energy. When people are really overweight, they have a lot of energy reserves, but they're not energy efficient. They don't know how to use, their body does not know how to use the stored body fat. So we want to teach the body to use stored body fat for fuel. Like me, I'm 8 to 10% body fat, I'm really lean, but I could survive for days, for weeks on the amount of body fat that I do have, believe it or not. And so we want to be really good at utilizing that body fat for energy. That's number one thing that is well researched in the ketogenic world, is using fat for fuel. Now, the second thing actually works with this, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't really want to lose weight, so is the ketogenic diet right for me? So if somebody's looking to lose weight, ketogenic diet is absolutely amazing, and most people know it for that, okay? But if you don't want to lose weight, like myself, okay, I don't want to lose weight, I want to maintain my muscle mass, I work hard for that, I want to keep it, is a ketogenic lifestyle right for me? Well, here's the thing. When your body is using these ketones as an energy source, you actually elevate blood leucine. And leucine is this branched chain amino acid that tells the body to maintain muscle mass, right? Maintain lean body tissue. So it'll help you preserve your muscle tissue and your bone tissue. Most people that are real lean, their body is very catabolic, meaning that it's constantly breaking down protein and breaking down muscle mass and breaking down bone tissue as well in order to elevate blood glucose, in order to elevate blood sugar. When we get that blood sugar stable, get that insulin down and produce the ketones, blood leucine goes up. Now we're able to maintain that lean body tissue. So you're really able to take on your ideal physique. You're going to notice that you're stronger, that you perform more effectively. It's going to help preserve your bone mass. So if you're out there, you're concerned about osteomalacia or osteoporosis, one of the best ways to help prevent that is elevating up those blood ketone levels. So that's the number 2 benefit. Number 3, let's talk about energy. So basically what we know is that ketones are very energy efficient fuel sources, all right? And so the other big thing is when we are producing ketones, when we're keto adapted, a big thing that happens is we actually have a process called mitochondrial biogenesis that takes place. And the mitochondria within every cell, basically, they are a little factory that's constantly producing energy. So with a ketogenic diet, we actually increase the amount of mitochondria. In rat studies, it's been shown to increase between 50 to 60% in somebody who's keto adapted compared to somebody who's not. 50 to 60% increase in mitochondria, that's a huge increase. So our body's going to be much more effective at producing energy levels. What does that mean to you? That means you just have more energy throughout the day. You have less fatigue. You're not feeling run down. You're going to be more resilient to the stress that you're under. That's what it means to you. So that's number 3. Number 4 is brain. Lots of research on brain. I mean, you and I both know the original research done on the ketogenic diet had to do with epilepsy, yes, right? It started coming out, and what they found was it was remarkable at how the ketogenic diet, when these epileptic kids went on a long-term ketogenic diet, the reduction in these debilitating seizures and the kind of success that they had with that. In fact, research has shown that 50% of epileptic kids see a significant reduction in the frequency and the intensity of their seizures after being on a ketogenic diet for 6 months, and that basically, so with that, so 50%. And then after being on it for 2 years, it's a 90% reduction. So the longer that they get keto adapted.
That's great research. That's just amazing.
Right?
It's incredible research for the brain function.
Yeah, and I mean, that's significantly better than any medication that's out there for seizures.
By
right? There's no medication
By
out
far.
there.
There's
and
no
those
medication
medications have tons of side effects, right? So it's unbelievable the research on that. Now, let's talk about other brain conditions, because we've got that research on epilepsy. So we should be trying to extrapolate that and think, okay, well, how can it also affect other areas of our brain, right? And what we know is that basically the brain is the most mitochondrial dense tissue in our body. So when we're keto adapted, again, we're producing more mitochondria, so better energy. Also, the ketogenic diet, recent research shown in 2017 here, research out of Nature Communications actually showed that it downregulates, when you're keto adapted, downregulates what's called the neuroinflammasome, okay, which is kind of this group of proteins that triggers inflammation in the brain, right? And so what does it do? Downregulates that, which downregulates, this is part of the innate immune system. So you've got things like interleukin-1 beta, tumor necrosis factor alpha. these are pathways that scientists and pharmaceutical researchers are working on, a ton of different medications that are very expensive medications in order to down-regulate these inflammatory pathways.
I also make a comment on that because it's such a powerful statement you made. And a lot of these pharmaceutical companies, they're doing the best they can, but they only have one pathway. And what we find with the keto lifestyle, especially when we're talking about the brain, it is all about inflammation. And use that word innate. It's basically your immune system doesn't have a memory. It's just going, and it's causing the degradation. And where we're seeing a lot of these brain cells just dying off. And now we're seeing an all-time high where we're seeing dementia and Alzheimer's. And now we're calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. So this is powerful information that you're bringing along. Can you imagine a medication having multiple pathways?
Yeah.
You're just not going to see it. So I think it's really important that we continue this dialogue, Dr. David, because it's powerful. Because without proper brain function, the body doesn't function as well. And we don't have that healthy, long lifestyle and the functionality. So we have to do a better job in our society talking about these issues on brain function. And now we're seeing the baby boomers are really, really scared because they were taking care of their family and now they know they're next.
Yeah.
This, adapting to this ketogenic lifestyle can make probably the biggest impact with brain function.
Yeah, I mean, it's so huge. And so, that last study I was just mentioning actually is out of Scientific Reviews. And that was, again, it was August of 2017. This other research I was just looking at yesterday, September 2017. This is in Nature Communication. And there's this inflammatory pathway called nuclear factor kappa beta, okay? And so basically, when we're producing a lot of energy through glycolysis, through burning sugar, it will increase activity in this nuclear factor kappa beta inflammatory pathway. And so by being keto adapted, we actually downregulate that nuclear factor kappa beta pathway, which is, one of the most potent inflammatory mediators, right? So it's so critical when we see research like that, that we then start to look at, okay, well, how is it affecting these sorts of chronic diseases like neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, dementia, different things like that. And so there's a great research in nutrition and metabolism back 2009. And what they did was they took 152 people with Alzheimer's disease, right? Didn't do any dietary intervention, okay, in the study. So not a ketogenic diet. All they did was add in exogenous ketones. They added in a ketone into the body. So they weren't gonna lower insulin, which is what the diet does, which is really the best way to apply this. All they did was they added in ketones, right, and MCT oil into that person's diet. And what happened? They saw significant improvements in their cognitive ability, right, when they did that.
That's powerful. That's powerful. You're not going to see that. This is a big, big problem in our society right now. And it's actually fearing a lot of Americans, which it should, by the way. We need to do better research. But these studies you just quoted, we need to continue trailblazing forward because all of these pathways we're talking about, whether it's going to be NF-kappa B, which is the gateway to all inflammation. Inflammation, it's like having a chronic inflammation. Okay, acute inflammation is necessary for healing, but chronic, past 72 hours, actually is like having a smoldering fire continually going on in your body. And it is rampant right now in our society. And what I've read myself, and with you quoting these studies, I'm encouraged. If we can get more integrative doctors believing and talking about this, and that's really encouraging to hear about these exoketone bodies, because it is difficult for elderly patients as well, maybe to do the diet. I think it's the best way to do it, but this is encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, you could just go right into a nursing home, bring MCT oil in there, put it on their food every day, and based on this study, you're going to see
we're going to see some positive results as well. Much better.
It's so powerful. And so you think about what that means to the average person out there. What the science is showing is that being keto adapted is going to improve cognitive acceleration, just your cognition in general, your ability to think sharply, quickly, improve your memory, your learning, and of course, reduce your risk of developing neurodegenerative states. And then we got to talk about mood, and that's really the fifth thing that I want to focus on is mood. Because we have an epidemic of depression and anxiety in our society. And so one of the key things that being keto adapted does, not only is it downregulate inflammation in the brain, and we know that depression now is really neuroinflammation. So meaning that it's inflammation in the brain when this neuroinflammasome that I had talked about before When that's activated and elevated, okay, which is what we find when we actually look at the brain tissue of people who are depressed, that they have higher levels of inflammatory activity there, that becomes downregulated by a ketogenic diet and a ketogenic lifestyle. And so the other big thing is we've got these neurotransmitters. One is glutamate, the other is GABA, okay? Glutamate is an excitatory neurotransmitter, meaning that it helps us think sharply and quickly. So I'm doing this presentation, I need to think sharply and quickly. I got a lot of glutamate activity going on. However, if glutamate gets out of control and it just continues to go really, really rampant, we have a lot of glutamate, it actually excites the brain tissue to death. You may have heard of things like monosodium glutamate, MSG, which they put in a lot of Asian food and processed foods. And people used to go into the, well, they still do, go into the Asian buffets and they would come out with massive migraines because they had this glutamate excitotoxicity that would take place. So what balances glutamate is this other neurotransmitter called GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid. And it's inhibitory. It helps balance us and calm us. What we find is that people with anxiety, okay, they have high glutamate, low GABA. They don't have a good ratio. Same thing with depression. So what a ketogenic diet does, when we're keto adapted, okay, it helps balance out the glutamate to GABA ratio and create stability there. What does that mean to you? That means you're gonna be able to think sharply and quickly, but you're not gonna get out of control. Your brain's not gonna be going too fast. You're not gonna be at risk for anxiety, for depression in the same way. You're gonna notice just an improved mood, more emotional balance. I mean, you think about domestic violence out there and just the amount of
it's an all-time high rate in our society we're seeing.
Frustration in our society.
Road rage. We're seeing a lot of our younger population just have unexplained fits of anger turning to substance abuse because it really is about balance in the brain. And this is what I love about the keto adaptogenic lifestyle. It's just a balance. And it makes a lot of scientific sense. Now we with all these years and all these studies, we're starting to really understand the science. So I want to get into describing a life of someone that you've seen and worked and coached with on this keto adaptation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, just kind of like what we were talking about here. So basically, when we start to look at the lifestyle, if we're able to balance out that glutamate to GABA ratio, you know, I want to really just jump back to that. This is huge because like we've got a massive amount of domestic violence, anger, frustration, things like that. You know, as a society, we let little things offend us and get us angry. And whenever I see that, when I see people doing that, one of the big things I think is their blood sugar is probably off, right? Their blood sugar's out of whack because you know what, when you're keto adapted, when you are actually following this lifestyle, you are much more resilient to that stress, much more resilient to it. And so you start to see life differently. It really helps you grow a lot mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You're a lot more balanced. And you know, I think that domestic violence, all this kind of stuff will go down significantly if we're really able to get this message out to more people. So, you know, that's a big thing. Also, we've got to look at just inflammation in general. So if we are saying, hey, the research is actually pointing this out, that it downregulates these inflammatory genes. It has this epigenetic effect where we actually impact the genes related to inflammation. Then I believe, even though the research isn't out there on conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, like eczema, okay, that are all associated with chronic inflammation, there's not a lot of research on how a ketogenic lifestyle and becoming keto adapted affects those types of conditions. However, as a clinician, I'm not going to wait for the research to come out there. I'm going to extrapolate what I'm seeing with the downregulation of inflammation in the brain and say, you know what? I think that person that has rheumatoid arthritis is going to have a significant reduction in inflammation because we know that being keto adapted downregulates nuclear factor kappa beta, tumor necrosis factor alpha. And I think they're going to see significant reductions in pain. Okay, I also think that that person with eczema, right, or acne, that they're going to see changes in inflammation in their skin. Somebody with Hashimoto's would see changes in inflammation around their thyroid. So we got to start to extrapolate what that inflammation
It's a great hypothesis,
yes.
And I will definitely postulate with you because through everything I've read, I have to agree that all of these diseases that are increasing, these autoimmune diseases, and a lot of physicians think, okay, it's autoimmune, let me shut down the immune system. How counterintuitive is that?
Yeah.
And really it's based on the fact that we need to find out what's causing these inflammatory pathways and look for strategies. And I couldn't think of a better strategy than the ketogenic lifestyle. And, you know, we talked about this adaptation. What are some of the challenges that you've seen individuals experience as they try really hard to get to that keto adaptation? What are some of the challenges?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest challenges with keto adaptation is you've got to switch from burning sugar to burning ketones, okay? And whenever your body's got to go through an adaptation period, there's uncomfortability that comes with it. It's kind of like exercise. You don't get in great shape without getting uncomfortable. You've got to go through some pain to get there. And so as you're adapting from being a sugar burner to being a fat burner, there is uncomfortability. And we call that the keto flu, right? Where people start to go through where their blood sugar drops and they start to feel dizzy. Sometimes they're hungry. Oftentimes, you know, they just deal with a lot of fatigue, headaches at times, right? These are all classic things that people will experience as they're trying to keto adapt. And it can last anywhere from a day for some individuals that are more metabolically flexible and their bodies are better at converting fat for energy, to sometimes weeks, 2 to 3 weeks for some individuals as they go through this process. And the more insulin resistant your body is, okay, we know insulin resistance through the condition diabetes. The more insulin resistant you are, oftentimes the more challenge you might have with it. Also, the more stress you've been under, okay, the more challenge you may have with keto adapting. But again, sometimes we got to go through this uncomfortability in order to get to the other side. And I know you and I have talked a lot about strategies that people can take in order to buffer that, so you notice less of this uncomfortability.
And definitely, we're going to talk about those strategies. My next question is going to deal with that. But I also wanted the viewers to understand that you have to go through some type of process. You know, the old saying, no pain, no gain. But the reality is, if you are insulin resistant, which we know leads to type 2 diabetes, and we need that insulin, as Dr. David said, to unlock into the cell and to drive, it's really all about energy. So there is hope. There is hope. For those of you that are having difficulties with a week to 2 weeks, you know, I want to just give you hope, because Dr. David, the next question I have is going to help answer that. During this keto adaptation, what are some of the supplements that you've seen can support this keto adaptation? Because I think this is critically important, and it's a game changer for some of the viewers or experience, because no one wants to have the keto flu for a couple of weeks. Yeah,
exactly. And number one, the first thing I want to do is really just talk about some lifestyle things. One big mistake I see a lot of people make when they try to get keto adapted is they're not hydrating well. We talked about the importance of water and using electrolytes, salts. Healthy salts like pink Himalayan salt is really my go-to, or maybe a Celtic sea salt, something along those lines. Really good, high quality salt. Why is that? Because when your insulin goes down, you start to excrete more electrolytes, more minerals. So your body gets rid of them. Your kidneys flush them. Most people are on a high carbohydrate diet. When you're on a high carbohydrate diet, your insulin's high, so therefore you retain more sodium. So in our society, most people have high insulin, high carb diet, so they're retaining all this sodium. So what do the doctors say? Be on a low sodium diet, low salt diet. And so everybody hears that and they think that's across the board. Not at all. If you're starting on this ketogenic journey, you need more salts. You need to get those electrolytes because your body's going to excrete more of them. So a lot of water and electrolytes will really, really help with curbing any sort of issues that take place with the keto flu. Also, what you can do is in the beginning phase, try to consume a ketogenic meal every 3 to 4 hours. So if you're used to eating 6 meals a day and you try to drop to 2 meals a day, that could be a big shock for your body. So in the beginning, go from 6 meals to maybe 4 meals. Try to do every 3 to 4 hours and make it a ketogenic meal, high fat, moderate protein, low carb. Okay, so again, you're eating 6 meals a day, cut it down to 4 for the first few weeks, okay, then cut it down to 3, then cut it down to 2. It may take you a month and a half, 4 to 6 weeks or so to get down to that point where you're really able to implement that intermittent fasting and just reduce your overall meal timing. So I think that's a huge tip. Now, as far as supplements go, okay, a couple things. MCT oil can be really, really helpful. Medium chain triglycerides, which are processed from coconut oil, can be really helpful because they turn into ketones fairly quickly in the body. The downside of MCT is that some people have a lot of gastrointestinal issues. Right. So they need to, people that are more prone to that, need to start very slowly, maybe like a half a teaspoon, okay, a really small amount to start to increase the ketones. And you can put that on your salad as a salad dressing. You can put it in your coffee, right, and make like a fat-burning coffee, keto coffee. That's a great strategy for it. It really has no taste. You can actually cook with it. Has no taste, no flavor at all, but it elevates ketones in your system. So that's a really great strategy. There's a new product called SCT oil, which is short chain triglyceride oil. Okay, that tends to be a little bit better on the guts, right? And it's kind of made out of grass-fed butter. And so it tastes really good, kind of like a ghee. And that's another strategy. But what I found to be the most effective is actually using exogenous ketones, okay? So these are ketones that are produced in a lab that you can then take in a supplement form, and it immediately elevates your blood hydroxybutyrate. And what research has shown, because there's a lot of companies that are producing this, research has actually shown that it's better to take exogenous ketones in combination with an MCT powder, a medium chain triglyceride powder, so you don't just get this massive spike of ketones, but instead you get this steady rise of ketones in your bloodstream. And again, when you get those ketones elevated, your body, you're gonna notice that you're less hungry. So you don't have the cravings, all right? You don't have the hypoglycemic kind of panic attack where your heart starts racing, you start sweating, you have a headache. You won't have that because now you've got the elevated ketones, your body realizes that.
And that research is compelling because we talked about that in previous interviews where it's all about digestion, absorption.
Yes.
And that strategy alone, a lot of these other companies, these exogenous ketones, they're not looking at adding for the body to adapt efficiently. It's all about efficiency.
Yes.
And that MCT, because it's a medium chain triglyceride, which is going to help you get into ketosis as well. But when you add it with the exoketone bodies, such as beta hydroxybutyrate, it's just like a very, very slow. I almost describe it as a time release. And it just floods the body and it passes the blood-brain barrier. And it's just an amazing combination, Dr. David, because you know when I read the research you've done and the discussions you had, I said, this is a great combination.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's fantastic.
So we combine that. Then other things, we need the minerals. We talked about that, minerals, okay? So super key. So, you know, a good exogenous ketone product, so the ketone itself, okay, the beta hydroxybutyrate should always be combined to different minerals. And we really like magnesium, sodium, and calcium for that. Very, very important to combine that so we get the benefit of the minerals and it's necessary for optimal absorption. Also, adaptogens. Adaptogens are super key. And so there's a lot of them out there. If you're listening, you may have heard of things like ashwagandha, rhodiola, maca, okay, reishi, lion's mane. These are really, really powerful adaptogenic herbs. And adaptogens are basically plant compounds, right? Plants that have adapted to geographical stress. They've adapted to extreme temperature ranges. They've adapted to predators, to all different types of things that would, in a sense, threaten their survival. And they've developed compounds. In particular, one of the most well-studied is terpenes. These powerful compounds that give it an ability to adapt and get back to homeostasis or balance so that they can continue to grow, be nourished from the soil, and thrive in harsh conditions. And so taking a group of adaptogens, and you find kind of the ones that you like the best. In a product that you and I made, we used 6 adaptogenic mushrooms, organically grown. So cordyceps, which is one of the most powerful ones. It's renowned for performance. Reishi, we've got lion's mane, king trumpet, which is amazing for circulation. What else do we have in there? We've got shiitake, which is one of the best things for the immune system.
Absolutely.
So adaptogens, getting adaptogens into your diet, whether it's the mushrooms, whether it's ashwagandha, whether it's rhodiola or holy basil, you know, getting those in regularly will really help you with keto adaptation because it will get your body closer to homeostasis and balance. So you're not like way out here where you're burning up sugar and you're stuck in fight or flight. It helps balance your nervous system. So that's really key. I also like branched chain amino acids. So things like leucine, isoleucine, valine can be really, really effective for preserving lean body tissue and just really giving you more energy, drive, helping you with tissue recovery. So that's another thing that can be helpful. And then phospholipids, because phospholipids are really every cell of our body is made up of phospholipids. They're right on the outer membrane. And part of downregulating inflammation is rebuilding cell membranes. And so phospholipids are one of the key backbones for that. We can consume phospholipids when we consume things like egg yolk. Okay, that's a really good source of phospholipids, grass-fed butter, but also sometimes taking some supplemental phospholipids will help us downregulate inflammation and improve brain function, neurotransmitter function in our brain more effectively and quickly. So those are some powerful supplements.
Those are powerful supplements, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you and I have been discussing, and we want our listeners and our viewers to know that it is about adapting, and it is about getting the body to adapt into extreme stressful situations. The reality is we all are dealing with stressors, and there's several different types of stressors: environmental, chemical, and of course emotional. So this is what's great about these nutrients, because we're not saying you're never going to have stress. We are going to have stress, but there's good stressors as well. So I love the fact that the research you've done, Dr. David, and that formulation is just amazing. So let's talk about food, because food is powerful. You know, Hippocrates talked about food: let your medicine be your food and your food be your medicine. I want to hear your favorite ketogenic foods, because one thing that really impresses about you is that you've taken to the next level. Because, you know, a lot of doctors just say, oh yeah, go on this diet, but you've actually helped and get some recipes out there. So let's talk about your favorite 5 foods.
Yeah, my 5 favorite, I love coconut. Really pretty much anything coconut. You take a coconut, the meat is ketogenic, right? It's high fat, moderate protein, low carb. The milk, so if you have coconut milk, high fat, moderate protein, low carb. In fact, there shouldn't really be any protein in the coconut milk. Just gotta make sure it's unsweetened. That's super key. Coconut oil, really good, turns into ketones. That's really, you know, one of the best sources of MCT, medium chain triglycerides to begin with. You've also got coconut butter, which is real versatile. You can make a lot of recipes with that. You can make fudge, all different types of stuff with coconut butter. You've also got coconut flakes. So you can just grab a bag of coconut flakes, stick it in the freezer. It's like candy chips. They taste great, fully ketogenic. The only thing about coconut that's not is coconut water. So you gotta be careful if you're doing coconut water. I will do fermented coconut water, okay, which comes out and it turns into a coconut water keeper, and the bacteria go in there. They actually eat the sugar, break it down, and produce B vitamins and organic acids, which are really good for your gut and energy production, and they reduce the sugar content. So if you're gonna do coconut water, do fermented coconut water kefir, and again, consume that in moderation, because it does still have some sugar in it, which can throw you out of ketosis. So coconut, avocados. I love avocados. I usually have 1 to 2 avocados every day, if not more. I'm a huge fan of guacamole. I also use them and make chocolate pudding, right? With coconut milk, with some sort of chocolate, healthy chocolate protein powder, and they absolutely taste amazing. Avocados loaded with potassium and magnesium, 2 carotenoid antioxidants, lutein and zeaxanthin, that are super good for the body. Also, avocados are very rich in fiber. And when you're on a ketogenic diet, people are like, well, where am I gonna get my fiber if I'm not eating starchy carbohydrates? Well, avocados, phenomenal source of fiber and electrolytes, really good for bowel motility. So love avocados. Grass-fed butter, gotta love grass-fed butter. I mean, it's loaded with vitamin A, fat-soluble vitamin A, retinol. A lot of people think, well, I'm gonna get my vitamin A from carrots. Okay, and I'm not against carrots. I think carrots have a place in a diet because they are healthy food. On a ketogenic diet, you wouldn't want to eat carrots very often, okay? And if you did, very, very small amount of them because they are higher in sugar. But the type of vitamin A that's in grass-fed butter and egg yolk is retinol, fat-soluble retinol, much more potent and effective than beta-carotene, which is what we find in the plant foods.
And it stores better. That's the key right there. It stores better because it's fat-soluble. So
and you think about the name retinol, you have a retina, right? And so super powerful for the eyes. So you think about glaucoma, cataracts, things like that. One of the most important nutrients is that nutrient we find in grass-fed butter, as well as egg yolk. And so it affects that. Plus, the eyes are an extension of the brain. So anything that impacts and improves the eye is going to improve the brain. And they're also partially an extension of the skin. They all come from the same embryological origin, the ectoderm. And so it's going to help improve the skin too, getting that in. Now, what else is in grass-fed butter? Conjugated linoleic acid, really good for the metabolism. It's an anti-carcinogen, helps your body destroy cancer cells. It's also got omega-3 fatty acids, as long as the cows were eating grass, which downregulates inflammation in the body. Vitamin K2, vitamin D in there. It's got choline, which is really powerful for the brain. protein, so I love grass-fed butter, and I'll do like steamed cruciferous vegetables, and that'll be my fourth, right? I'll take broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, something like that, steam it up, breaks down the outer cellulose, the outer fiber, makes it easier in your digestive system. You know, those plants are really tough on the digestive system because if you're just eating them raw, so if you were to eat raw broccoli, actually very tough for your digestive system. You need a lot of enzymes to break it down. If you steam it, it breaks down that outer cellulose, makes it easier on your gut, and then you cover it and melt grass-fed butter all over it. Tastes amazing. Put some herbs on it, maybe some fresh squeezed lemon. Tastes incredible. Great carrier for the butter.
You're making my mouth water right now. I'm like you, still fasting, so we'll have that later on today.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Those are superfoods. Those are amazing superfoods.
Exactly. That's right. And then, you know, my last one is going to be olives, right? Just olives in general are awesome. So you can put those on salads. You can use olive oil. Things like that. I mean, I could talk on and on. We can talk about lemons and limes, apple cider vinegar. I can go all day on this.
It's awesome. But that's just great advice,
yes.
Dr. David. And listen, if you're joining us and you're encouraged with the Keto Edge Summit, we continue to bring this amazing information with these superfoods and the science and how the body operates. And ultimately, it's giving you the tools to galvanize you to take action. So we're all encouraged here. So Dr. David, we're almost running out of time here. How can our viewers find out more about you and the ketogenic lifestyle? And more importantly, because of the research you've done with the Keto Edge product, how can they find out more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, my home base is drjockers.com, just drjockers.com. I have a really active YouTube, Facebook, you know, all the social media channels. If you're in the Atlanta area, I do have a clinic, Exodus Health Center, where we do functional medicine, chiropractic care, health coaching, keto coaching, all of that kind of stuff. And the product that you and I, we help formulate together with our research is Keto Edge. And you can find that on ketoedge.com. We're really excited about it. It's one of the sponsors of this summit. And so you'll learn more about this product and really why we're so excited and what we can do with that to really help improve people's ketogenic journey and you know, really make a dent in our healthcare system and help people get well and get that super edge in life that we hope and pray that you'll get out of this.
We want to thank you guys for listening. If you're encouraged like I am and you're empowered right now and you just want to take action, you know, continue listening to our other experts. This is all about you taking that first step to optimal wellness. There is no doubt that the research is behind the Keto Edge lifestyle. It is a lifestyle. We encourage you to embrace that. So continue listening. Hopefully that you'll continue educating and reaching. And I just want to thank you, Dr. David, because you started this whole process. Let's continue to make a difference.
Let's do it.
One patient at a time, one cell at a time, because this is powerful stuff. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Love it.
And we'll see you guys next time here at the Keto Edge Summit.